Welcome to Relationship Equity, a podcast that explores how successful people cultivate meaningful connections with others in their personal and professional lives. Learn from the stories, insights, and advice of leaders, innovators, and influencers who have built strong bonds with their teams, their customers, their communities, and their families. Here's Richard Walker.
I'm back with my good friends Melissa Flicek from Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Minnesota and Jim Grain from NMDP. We've been talking about the pivotal traits that propel them to the top of their fields. They've truly defined what it means to thrive as a modern technology leader. Well, listen, Jim, you're both relatively new in your roles. How do you identify the senior members of your teams who are key to getting your initiatives off the ground?
I think for me, and Melissa, I'll kick it over to you when I'm done here, is it was sitting down with my peers and sitting down with kind of the C-level and, basically asking them, asking them for a lot of feedback, but also asking them, help me understand your team. Help me understand kind of the individuals who are the progressive individuals, the innovative individuals, those who may be caught in time and that are really tough change management. And those that are really, happy with the tech, those that aren't happy, and really trying to do a 360 on their team, you're going to gain a lot of insights into those teams and their leaders on their teams that will then help you get to that next layer down, the L1 layer, the L2 layer, and you'll figure out pretty quickly those that you need to win over, those that you need to listen to, those that have subject matter expertise that you're probably not going to find in the rest of the organization. And you can develop that pretty quick in a layered sort of way by just talking to your peers and asking about their teams and what they do.
I'll use Medtronic as a big example in my career of where I had to learn to do this pretty effectively. I spent the majority, actually all of my career up until this role, focused on digital transformation and digital technology solutions, which was incredible because I spent 10 years of that at Target, which at that time and still is retail, very mature and advanced.
Right.
And when I decided to make the move into Medtronic, which was not super mature and advanced in as an industry in those capabilities, it was like my head was swiveling around like, I've been talking for 3 months and I'm pretty sure no one knows what I'm talking about. Like, it took me 3 months to realize that. People were like nodding like, ooh, that sounds fancy, cool. But like nobody really knew what I was talking about. And so I stepped back, I spent time, I asked a lot of questions, I looked at the business, and then I created, I don't want to call it a pitch deck, but it kind of was a pitch deck for Medtronic Connect, which was a global digital platform that solved a lot of international and domestic challenges that were happening, like inventory management in hospitals of devices and things like that. I went and met with each of the business leaders and at all layers to walk them through it. And it was very clear to me who was like, I want to try it. And then when I had one business hooked in to go, we went and we measured everything. We KPI'd everything. We showed every single advancement. And then I would just go to every single business unit with that story and say, oh my gosh, cardiovascular is doing this. Why aren't you? Like, look at the wins there. Because they're salespeople at the end of the day. They want to win. And They would look and say, I want that too. How much is that going to cost me? I'll do that. So to really, really create solutions that like were meaningful for them. And then I went to the, who bit, and I led with them and all their wins to make the rest of the organization really lean in.
There's many words missing off that nice list that we first started with. And you just reminded me of one now that is, in my opinion, in the toolkit of every single senior leader. I don't care what role or what department, and that's influencing skills. And what you just demonstrated is how you influenced others that's in their best interests. You weren't trying to shove something down their throat that wasn't good for them because you understood their business and you understood why what you created could help them. So influencing skills are so important at every level, but especially at the highest level, because you have to understand what drives people, what's their agenda, before you try and influence them what your agenda is. If their agenda doesn't line up with yours, then it's not going to happen. So it's having that curiosity and the ability to ask a lot of questions before you influence people. And some people have got natural influencing skills, and some people have learned them, and a bit of both. There's no, nobody on earth that was born with perfect influencing skills. A lot of them are developed over time. Now, I got to tell you something funny. I'm not sure I ever told you, Melissa, but when Mike Hedges, the CIO at the time, hired you, and it was shortly after I had a meeting with Hedges, who I became really good friends with because he's a Northern English fella. I said, Melissa's brilliant, but she's all retail. She has no medical device experience. Why the hell did you hire her? And he said, that's why. It wasn't, he didn't care that you didn't have the industry knowledge. He knew what you'd done at Target, and he knew what the impact you'd have there, and he wanted to bring that impact to him, because of anybody within his organization that thought like you, that the experience that you did. So sometimes you got to bring somebody from the outside with completely fresh eyes that are not kind of institutionalized based on being in the same. So, I mean, we often hire people that have got industry experience, but sometimes, like, the risk he took, or perceived risk, is bringing someone from the outside that he couldn't spell medical device, but it didn't matter. He was bringing you in for other reasons. So I don't think I ever told you that.
No, that's really funny. And I think meeting people where they're at, understanding where people, like, again, maybe I was a little slow, but in 3 months, and I was like, they have no idea what I'm talking about. I stepped back. I literally took 3 to 4 weeks, created a clickable prototype, and flew to Australia to pitch it to that region, this Medtronic Connect. And by the time I was done, like, demonstrating and talking about what this was, a leader came up, the senior leader that was running that region came up and said, "I want that now. I'll take that now in my region." I said, "It doesn't do anything." Like, it's
Yet.
illustrative, but, and he's like, "I don't care. It's better than what I've got today. I'll take that. Give me the iPad." Okay.
That's brilliant.
By the way, Melissa, I know can spell medical device. I absolutely know that. And it was brilliant of Michael of Hedges to bring
It was.
lesson. Yeah, absolutely. But it actually it pinpoints something as you are building, and I'm going to pivot this just a little bit. As you're building high performing teams, you have to really do a deep assessment on your team. And what is your team strong at? What is your team really, really good at? What are they weak at? Where do they have gaps? Do they need to bring in some outside savvy, i.e. Medtronic, that maybe has been there, done it in a different industry? The medical industry is a little bit behind financial services, for example. And I know when I stepped into a role at Prime Therapeutics, it was like walking back in time 5 years from a financial services industry. And I walked in, it was similar, Melissa, to what you experienced. It was 3 months. I walked around and went, wait a minute, I'm walking back into the 70s and 80s here, and it's 2000. And it was crazy. But you have to adapt your style, you have to adapt your approach, and really meet people where they're at, and really understand where they're at, and use your influence, your team building skills, etc. But there are times we have to bring in folks from different industries to fill in gaps on teams, and to really build that high performing, high functioning team that's going to be challenged and has a great rounded team ability to make things happen.
It's real fun from my perspective to watch, because I'm obviously on the outside looking in with many of our clients, and we have a local client here. It's a conglomerate, and it's a global company. And the CIO, who I know very well, you both know him as well. He brought in this fella from the East Coast with a very different kind of mentality. You mentioned something earlier, Melissa, about company culture. Company culture is very complex because obviously there's subcultures as well. And this fellow was deliberately brought in to rattle cages and to influence major change. Well, whenever that happens, obviously every company goes through phases of that, but when there's going to be major upheaval, which there will be with this company, there are three sets of people, right? Ones that get on board with it and love it, ones that say, not me, no chance, I'm out. And then ones in the middle that will then follow. But it's a really interesting dynamic. I've seen this happen over many years of massive change, and how people respond to that is up to them. We are in control of how some people make the change. I remember I have a rock that my daughter bought me years and years ago. It used to be my office when I had a real office, and it said, some people make things happen, some people watch things happen, and some people wonder what the hell just happened. And so it really a matter of which category do you want to be in. I want to do something a little bit different here. I've never done this before in any of my conversations. I want to flip this a bit, and I want you two. You've known me very well. You've known me for years, both of you. I'd like you to both ask me questions that are on your mind, that I might have a different vantage point than you do, having you working with dozens and dozens of companies now. And so I'll just leave it at that. What questions do you have for me?
I'll start. And Richard, it's a privilege to know you as long as I've known you, and have seen you prosper and grow and take on bigger and bigger roles. And it's been a phenomenal ride that you've had.
Well, I'm glad you're a poor judge of character, Jim.
Yeah, I am. And thanks for that bribe that you sent over last night too. It's working. Running a consulting advisement, now a product shop.
Right.
You've talked to many different leaders in organizations, CIOs, CTOs, CEOs,
Right.
whatever C title you want to give them. You've talked to them all. What's been the biggest change in the last 5 to 10 years that you've noticed in these leaders in terms of skills or how they act or what they do? What's been the biggest change that you've seen?
It's a really good and big question. Not really sure. I'll start here. I mean, the first thing is always, I'm not sure this is a change, but it has been with some companies. The importance, it's going to sound like a silly answer, the importance of understanding your culture as it relates to people and your employees. Why do people want to join your organization? Why do they leave? And why would people stay? I would say that's number one. I think so I spent some time with the former CEO of Coke Industries down in Florida recently. We had a boat trip, blah, blah, blah. And he said it took him too long to realize the importance of creating a culture where people wanted to be, and where people felt like they had a career journey, where they felt like they had continuous learning. And the reason this conversation came up was because of, you mentioned our subsidiary product company, because of the product that we're building now. And he said, God, I wish I had that, because I had so many people leave because they couldn't see a career path to themselves. They felt like their skills went stale. We might send people to an odd day training, but you don't know if those skills really stick, and they're not being used when they come in. So that was his biggest thing, that he said he wished he'd have recognized it early in his career. Now that's one answer to your question, one perspective. The other is, here's the big shift that I've seen. And this is a shift in how companies use organizations like ours. And this is really a big shift over the last 2 or 3 years. And it's one that it kind of makes me a little bit sick to my stomach, if I'm going to be very honest with you. But it is what it is, and I understand why, and I'll explain it in a second. So the big shift, I read something recently. I read a lot in terms of trends in our game and business in general. And there's a trend now that there's roughly the same number of computer science or related grads than there ever has been, but there's half the jobs. So you've got the same number of people now that are competing for half the college kids that are graduating, looking for a technology role. There's half of them. If you think about just the Twin Cities, for example, there's 2 major corporations that are clients of ours, and I won't name who they are. And for the first time in their history, they're not hiring college grads. They're not doing it. And typically they hire hundreds for the first time this year. And that, to me, it's concerning for the American economy, because if that's a pattern across the board, it's a problem. I read something recently that blamed AI for that. Well, I think AI is partly, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, partly the reason, but there's a bigger reason, and that's most companies now are spending. There's hundreds of millions of dollars spent in technology right now for technology services, technology products outside of the US. There's been a big shift. Obviously, offshore has been there for a lot of years, and there's a big shift to the term nearshore now, Latin America, eastern part of the world, Eastern Europe, what have you. And that's a big trend that we've seen. Now, fortunately for us, we can do that. We are doing that. We've adapted to be able to do that. And so it's not hurting our business at all. In fact, it's actually helping, ironically. But it kind of makes me squirm a bit. Now, having said that, I feel like a hypocrite, Jim, because we buy 3,000 pairs of socks every year. York logoed socks. You've seen them, you've got them. And they're fun. 3,000 pairs a year. And everybody loves them. Our consultants, our clients, our friends. The biggest proponent for them is my 98-year-old buddy. I give him a new full bag of socks every month, and he distributes them to his whole family. The reason I bring that up sounds silly, but I used to buy them from Nordstrom Rack. I buy them from China. Why? They're a third of the price. So I feel like a hypocrite, making the statement that I understand and I get it, but that's a big trend, a big shifting trend that I've seen with companies that are now, spending hundreds of millions of dollars outside the US. And that's just a fact. So that I don't know whether I really answered your question very well, but that's what I've seen.
I have a question. I can't think of anyone better at maintaining a huge network of relationships. Like, truly, everybody. Okay, everybody and everything. And you find a way to maintain those in little ways. Sometimes it's a phone call, sometimes it's a text, sometimes it's I'm going to stop in and see you. What is I don't want to call it a strategy because I think it's pretty natural to you, but how do you orchestrate all of that in your head to keep all of that going at the same time with this huge broad network that you have?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that. I don't know everything and I don't know everybody. I know quite a few people and I know some things, but anyway, thank you for saying that. I wish I could tell you I had a strategy, and I wish I could tell you, because you called it, Melissa. You know me well. It's all in my head, and it's not a good place for it to be. I don't even know how to get on our CRM system. I'm embarrassed to say I know what it is, but I'd never been on it. I don't even know how to get there. I don't keep track of anything. I've got scribbled pieces of paper. Well, I'm old school, and I drop balls because there are a lot of people, and I've been very fortunate to have built a big network of people that I call friends. And I you go back to joking about my book before. I just I was taught at a very early age to treat everybody the same way. And some people would say I treat everybody with the same disrespect, and which is pretty accurate because I do. The more I like you, the more shit I'll give you, right, Tim? So I remember our AI event that you hosted. I picked on you a little bit, and I almost felt bad for picking on you a bit, but I got over it pretty quickly. but but thank you for what you said, Melissa. And let me just kind of I'll answer it in a different. I don't have a strategy. It's all in my head. But what I will say is, because of that network, because of my genuine desire to truly help people, it's obviously helped from a business standpoint as well. There's no two ways about that. But there's nothing more satisfying to me than to feel as though I've had a little bit of input that's helped somebody with their career. Because, and not just career, but because, let's face it, a career is a big part of our lives. And if I feel as though I've helped somebody with it, then it's just very satisfying to me. So I think one of the things because I coach people at every level, from high school to CEOs and whatever. And to be frank with you, the ones I get most enjoyment out of it are the youngest ones. Every intern that we have, I meet with every single one. And I'm actually, right after this meeting, I'm meeting with somebody now. It's a friend of mine who's a client out on the East Coast, and his son is struggling to find a job. He just graduated with a computer science degree, great GPA, great school, can't find a job. So I'm going to spend some time with him, and he'll ask me the question, what's the most important thing for me to do? I'll obviously coach him on finding the job and do what I can to help him. But the advice I will give to him is the same advice I give to everybody. Start building on early and don't stop doing it. And it's not necessarily to find your next job, because, as you know, something you mentioned earlier, Jim, is coaching and learning from the best. That what I've done in my career is just that. I found out who the best was, and I latched onto them, and I learned and gleaned everything I could from them, because that's how you learn. And if you surround yourself with the right people. Now, to your point, I mean, I call it in my book, I call it the relationship equity circle. The people in your real inner circle are the ones that you are genuinely good friends with. If your house is burning down in the middle of the night, they will jump in the car with a fire extinguisher and help put it out. That's in your inner circle. And the circle goes out from there. And that relationship equity circle will change over time. But the question is it intentional? Sometimes it's not. You meet new friends and they go into the middle of your circle. That's great. But the more intentional we are about our own relationship equity circle, the better things that come from that. So that was a kind of a long, maybe not the answer you're expecting, but that's where my head is as it relates to relationships and networking.
Oh, that's great. Richard, one last question. Think of when you were 25 and all the experiences that you've accumulated since that point.
Right.
A whole lot. 25
Way
is a
back
long time.
when, Richard. Way
Yeah.
back when.
Yeah, 100 years
That's
ago.
That's a way damn long time ago.
Yeah, it is.
What would be the 3 things you would tell yourself if you could tell yourself back at 25 years that have helped you get to where you're at today? What would be the 3 most important things?
Number one, without a doubt, say yes to everything. Yes, opportunities. Yes. You've seen that silly movie called Yes Man. There's a lot of truth to that. Say yes to opportunities. And I actually did write about this in my book as well. The reason I'm talking with you unbelievable people today, that is the primary reason, because I grasped with both hands every opportunity that landed in my lap, and some of them by happenstance, some fortunately, and some luck, and some I made happen. But I said yes to everything. And it wasn't because, and this is the important thing about this, it wasn't because I thought it could succeed. And it wasn't because I didn't think I would fail. It was just the adventure. It was just wanting to do something new. I mean, I first got the opportunity to come to America. I go back, I was 21. And I was a bricklayer from farming community. I was supposed to stay on the building site until I was 100 years old, broken back and all that stuff. But when I got this opportunity to come to America, I didn't even hesitate. I jumped on the first plane and I was here. So it would be, number one was saying yes to every opportunity. Number two is the people aspect of it. And it's the treating everybody the same way. It's being able to develop relationships with people at every level. And because if you treat everybody the same way, if you see everybody the same way, I used to be very intimidated. I would never, early in my career, I started in this business when I was 27, and I wouldn't dream of talking to a CIO because I felt like I had no value whatsoever. Why would a CIO want to talk to me? And I really didn't at the time. But as my career grew and I realized these are just people. Jim Graham is just a person. Melissa Flicek is just a person. They're brilliant at what they do, but they're just people. And my confidence grew in interacting more and more with senior level people and realizing these are just people and understanding that in order for me to create a relationship with people, I need to respect who they are and what they do. But, we're all just people. And then finding value to what can I do to help people? And that's when I, early in my career, when I started connecting people, I found that was great value to people. Whether they were looking for an opportunity or not. It was great value to people because, something else I wrote about is, and it sounds a bit corny, but, our net worth is typically equal to our network. You tend to hang around with people that are, similar demographic to you. And so I started to, surround myself with very intelligent people who are successful and learned a lot from them. The third thing I would say, something that Melissa mentioned earlier, and that's just a natural curiosity. And a curiosity to learn and never stop learning, which is why this product our subsidiary company is building is so exciting to me. And I'm not sleeping much. I'm not kidding because of this, because I think it's got an incredible application in the world. And you use this analogy when I was talking, because my wife with Billy was over for dinner after playing golf the other night. She wanted, understand what was going on with it because she's always very curious herself. And I said, this product that Billy's building, let's just say, let's take Grandma, for example. Grandma, she's a knitter. She knits all the time. And if she wants to be an expert level knitter, we'll be able to create a product in a learning journey for her to be an expert knitter. And the great thing about this product, what I'm so excited about, is it understands who you are and how you learn and goes at your pace. And, for somebody that's going to learn very fast, it will go with you very fast, because I haven't seen this as just something they did recently. And they created a learning journey for mindset and what's your mindset. And Billy and Nate, the product manager, they both side by side went through this learning journey and answered it very differently, and saw the response that the AI gave relative to their answers. And so Billy accelerated fast, where Nate deliberately went a lot slower. So, it's a long answer to the question. I'm doing a lot of rambling now, but thank you, by the way. You hosted our most recent AI event that was fantastic and presented as well, as did Melissa, as did our subsidiary company. And the feedback we got from that was incredible. People absolutely loved it. They really did, because it's fun and it's new. And let's face it, the people that are there are the ones, Melissa, and you talked about getting the right people for a new initiative and get them on board so everybody else follows. That's those people, because they want to be there on the bleeding edge of technology with how is AI really helping businesses? How is it really differentiating businesses? How is it really differentiating people? And so it's just right now. I mean, I've been in this game for a long time. I'm as excited now as I ever have been, because of not just technology, but because of how people are embracing it and the possibilities that we have with it, not just in businesses, but in life, in the world in general. And I'm very fortunate that I'm surrounded by brilliant technologists. I mean, I'm about as technical as a pint of Guinness, you know that. And I'm the example, Melissa. I don't really know what's possible. So people always coming to me and saying, hey, have you thought about this? We could do this with technology. Oh, that's a great idea. Never thought about that. I'm in that camp. Well, I can't believe our time is up already. We could talk for another 4 hours. Melissa, I'd like to ask you both to finish with your final thoughts. Melissa, let's start with you.
My final thoughts are: put relationships and partnerships first. Truly invest in others, both your company, your partners, your team. Be authentic about it, and put the customer in the center always. You'll succeed. No matter what the outcome, it's success.
Stay curious. Stay curious. Stay curious. Continuously improve. Try to do better tomorrow than what you did today. And with that sort of mindset, that'll be great. Lifelong learning and relationships, whether it's personal, private, business, etc. Relationships are key to everything that you do. And make sure that you're cultivating them for the long term and reading that relationship equity book. That would be it. That's fine. Thanks for the opportunity, Richard. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much to both of you. I really enjoyed it.
I can't thank you both enough. It was a lot of fun, as it always is.
This has been Relationship Equity. If you want to take your career, your business, or your personal relationships to the next level, reach out to Richard at yorksolutions.net. You can also get Richard's book, Relationship Equity, your cornerstone investment to great gains in business and life, on Amazon now. Relationship Equity with Richard Walker is a production of Forbes Books.